What's good, my PacRats? PMC here, and welcome to 6 Essentials, the series that gives you 6 essential games for your respective console. Up this week is the PlayStation 1. Now, Sony's breakthrough console into the gaming market came out in 1995, but there was a bumpy road before they could start. They first tried to partner up with Nintendo to have a disc-based system where Nintendo threw them to the curb after finding out they wouldn't have the market share on the CD-ROMs. PlayStation as well tried to go to Sega, who also kicked them to the curb. So when you have the big two not letting you play ball out in the field, you start your own game. During the PlayStation's life cycle, we have to thank them for a lot of innovation. Not only did we have incredible light gun games, did we have a plethora of multiplayer experiences with the multi-tap and many other fun accessories that the PlayStation came out with. But we are talking about essentials on this list. In this specific one, we are going to focus, because of the huge game library, on the first player essentials that you need to have for this console. Let's get into it. All right, first up, let's get this obvious guy out of the way on the 6 essentials, and that is Final Fantasy VII. Now, for RPGs, this was unprecedented at the time. Not only did we have these full motion videos, did we have this robust mechanic system, but overall, an incredible overarching story that really gave you an experience that this was next gen. The Final Fantasy series alone has such a huge impact on us. But Final Fantasy VII skyrocketed the popularity of the RPG series to modern audiences. Not only had most people not experienced a game like this before, but the PlayStation's unique architecture gave you an amazing 3D experience that you had not gotten much before. This series birthed media and movies and additional games and spin-off series. It is hard to not put this on the list as the top game in the PlayStation's library. Now, there is many other amazing RPGs. In fact, one of my favorites is Final Fantasy IX, with more of a steampunk vibe, and the characters are a little bit more likable and energetic. But in this one, this dark mech fantasy is really amazing. The music alone, the battle system, the materia system. In this game, you just cannot go wrong with a fun single-player experience in the RPG realm on the PlayStation 1. Final Fantasy VII's gotta be in the list. We cannot talk PlayStation 1 without talking about the Resident Evil series. Now, Resident Evil 2 is on this list for some specific reasons. The Resident Evil franchise really did get its start on PC and the Sega Saturn, but did not get that boom in popularity until it moved over to the overwhelmingly successful PlayStation. Not only did this game have some of the most amazing pre-rendered graphics, a great story, such fun gameplay, but this also touted support for the new analog controller, the DualShock. We have to thank Ape Escape for letting us try the DualShock controller in the first place. And no, this isn't on the 6 essentials list. It has to get a shout out by using the analog joysticks for the first time by introducing us to the R3 and L3 buttons on the analog controller. By pressing down on these gave us an extra button and just a new way and mechanic to play these games. So thanks, Ape Escape. Back to Resident Evil. The Resident Evil 2 series allowed you to choose 2 different pathways between Leon or Claire. Though they follow similar storylines, they do have different experiences in the game, which was pretty much unheard of at the time. The PlayStation's raw power gave you the ability to have these 2-disc experiences on this game, but the horror franchise would never be the same after this. What made Resident Evil 2 so incredible was not only did it have fantastic fantastic pacing, but these new PlayStation 1 graphics were something that we have never seen before. You all might remember the original zombie scene in Resident Evil 1. Well, the first time that you see a licker drop down is probably the scariest thing that I remember playing back as a kid. With these crazy tank controls and cool puzzle effects in a survival horror game, Resident Evil has to be on the list for the experience you get with the PlayStation 1. So Sony had the breakthrough console of that generation, and it doesn't come with success without amazing games like Gran Turismo. Now, the staple of the PlayStation 1 has to be the Gran Turismo series. The first one came out, blew everybody's minds, graphically impressive, the audio visual was literally unheard of. You couldn't think they could beat it until Gran Turismo 2 comes out and adds new additional modes with a 2-disc case, giving you a simulation mode that you loved from the first one and a new arcade mode on the disc that lets you just play the game for the love of it. Racing was never better than on the original PlayStation, and this game to this day still holds up. It is smooth as butter on the controls, support for the analog stick, and you will be hard-pressed to find a single-player experience that makes you want to have replayability. The Gran Turismo series is a wonderful addition to the Essential set, and you have to have it in your library. The PlayStation 1 was known for its 3D graphics. They had really pushed this polygon design, but one of the games on the list stayed tried and true with the 2D sprite formula, and literally to this day is one of the most beautiful games, and that is Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Now, this is the most expensive game on the list by coming in at over $100 to have this game in the library. But if you're going to invest in a game on the PlayStation, this is definitely one you should have in the library. Castlevania being on the original Nintendo and Super Nintendo, after the fallout from Sony and Nintendo, the PlayStation took this by storm. Castlevania was fun and known, but it did not blow up in huge popularity until Symphony of the Night came out. A beautiful game with the most amazing side-scrolling, beautiful sprite graphics you've ever seen, and still to this day holds up against some of the best modern games being developed. Castlevania Symphony of the Night, coupled with this CD soundtrack, which was absolutely incredible, this amazing gameplay, and a cultural impact that would literally blow up the Castlevania name to a household staple. The PlayStation 1 is not complete without Castlevania Symphony of the Night. When Sony came to the market, they wanted nothing better for the PlayStation than to have amazing third-party support, and Namco jumped on the train early with the Tekken series, and in my hand is Tekken 3. One of the most robust, amazing fighting games on the system, and you cannot have a PlayStation without having a Tekken game in your library. Tekken 3 not only offered us amazing character designs, great move sets, and an additional Tekken Force mode, which gave you an additional beat-em-up game inside, but this game was amazing at the time. Introductions of characters like Eddie Gordo really had us at the edge of our seats playing some capoeira moves with fun button mash characters, strategic characters, and powerhouse characters, which we had never really seen in any other fighting game. Namco wanted nothing more than to take Virtua Fighter down from Sega's library and gave us Tekken 3, and we are super thankful for such an amazing game. Even if you're not a fighting game, this game just gives you a lot of fun and a lot of replayability. Tekken 3 belongs in the library on the PlayStation 1. Guys, the last game on the list is no different from the way Namco felt is Konami. Konami really supported the PlayStation through its life cycle, and this game is probably one of the most influential, aside from Final Fantasy VII, on the PlayStation 1, and that would be Metal Gear Solid. Now, this game was probably the most intense on storyline, the new gameplay mechanics, and some unheard of things that happen to your console that you've never experienced before. This game offered a fourth wall breakout that we had not seen before, where you have to use the game case itself to continue parts of the series. There are times that you have to switch your controller port from 1 to 2 due to a boss messing with your control schemes. And I will tell you now, one of the most difficult branches in a game to change your storyline is where you have to press the square button on the PlayStation controller as fast as you possibly can. And I'm not kidding with you, your fingers will be absolutely numb. But experiences like this on Metal Gear Solid made it one of the most sought after and exciting titles on the PlayStation 1. Konami blew us away with the development of this game. We had anime story-like elements, we had tactical espionage, and we truly had one of the most suspenseful and butt-clenching games on the PlayStation 1. There is many times that you are trying to stealth through this game that make you have such anxiety moments, but the character-driven aspect of this game is really where it comes into the forefront by having some amazing cast of characters that Solid Snake, the main character of this game, has to go up against. And every single thing about this game is absolutely memorable. Now, they did remake this on the GameCube as the Twin Snake series, so you have access to playing this multiple ways, but as a staple of the PlayStation 1, you gotta have Metal Gear Solid in that library. Now, I'm gonna end this, guys, with some honorable mentions. 6 games for a library that is arguably almost 2,000 titles is very difficult to break down, but we all know what is PlayStation without its iconic characters. First up, we've got Tomb Raider. When Tomb Raider broke through the scene, it ended up being PlayStation's main mascot of Lara Croft. Now, this game does not hold up to this day, but we have to thank the franchise of Tomb Raider and the popularity it gained on PS1 by giving us some amazing titles and experiences of culture during that time. Competing for the mascot at the time was Crash Bandicoot. Now, this gave you a cool 2.5D platformer that we had not experienced before. Naughty Dog came up, developed an amazing series with the Crash Bandicoot games, and absolutely a staple on the PlayStation 1. Lastly, guys, and later in the console's life, got us that little dragon that could, Spyro the Dragon. And again, one of those series that really gave birth and life to amazing gameplay and story elements, and also gave PlayStation that second wind with the DualShock analog controller. Running around with Spyro was never so much fun. Now, though this is a 6 Essentials list, the honorable mentions here of PlayStation's arguable 3 mascots during its lifetime has to be on there. I know people would scream at the screen if you didn't have at least a nod to these amazing games, but the 6 Essentials list really is to round out things that will help you experience the console and various platforms, and though these ones are not on there, they definitely deserve the nod. So as PlayStation offering such an amazing library, 6 Essentials literally was the most difficult one that I've done so far. If you guys have games that you believe are essentials to the list, let me know down in the comments. But remember, they're not your favorite games. They are not the best games, but they are essential games that round out the console and really give life to why it gained in such popularity in the first place. And I believe we've made a great 6 Essentials list. Let me know.